Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite warlock, practicing necromancer here. It's been a long time since I've done a video on Dark Sorcery. So, this is my first official uh, live video in a long time. So, Xander, welcome. So, anyways, from what I've been told, and I've been talking with Alfredo Martinez, is that everybody's been doing these book reviews. So I thought I'd weigh in on something that is very rarely. Look, Missy, this is not black magic time. This is daddy time. Understood? Keep going. Sorry about that. That was one of my familiars. Got four of them. This one likes to cuddle. She likes to be the center of attention. So, anyways, um, as I was saying, there's a portion of necromancy and ritualistic spiritualism that people don't really get into these days. They and if they do discuss it, it is very low key, it is very minuscule, to be blunt. And I've read a lot of different books on spirituality, a lot of different books on spiritual communications, the whole kit and caboodle. And there's only one guy that I would turn to. Only one guy, and that's Raymond Buckland. The Book of Spirit Communication. Okay. This book here has just about every form of divination that you could use for spiritual communion with any type of spirit, be it jinn, the Orisha, the Loa, the demonic, or the angelics. I don't judge. That's up to you on who you want to commune with. But a lot of people put forth material upon how to do it, the techniques that they use, but they don't go into various different techniques from various different religious perspectives. You see, NeoPaganism is something that I always had a lot of respect for. And the reason for that is because of the fact they don't stick to one tradition. They go through a lot of different traditions and they pick and choose what fits them and their practice. If you think about Satanism, it is the exact same thing. Most of the time, you're seeing the atheistic perspective from Anton Zandaleve's Satanic Bible, or that of, say, for an example, his mindset put forth in Satan Speaks or the Devil's Notebook. Got a lot of respect for Anton LaVey. That man was a genius when it came to being well. Let's just say he put Aleister Crowley to shame, in my opinion, when it came to being the cruelest man alive. But here it is. Okay, no matter what chapter you go to, you have exercises, affirmations, problems, or possible outcomes that will hinder you, such as problems of connecting, the atmospherics, okay, different positions from protective psychic shell, okay, working with spiritual guides, different historical spiritualism perspectives. And when you get later in the book, well, guess what? You're dealing with chakras, you're dealing with healing, You're dealing with palmistry. You're dealing with tea leaf reading. You're dealing with runes. Even the rods, the dowsing rods. And I really liked that. Even levitation, mediumship. Okay. And on page 137, psychometry as a tool of spirit communication. How many people do you know that actually talk about that? Different readings for different mediums. Okay. How about flower reading or billets and billet readings? Okay. Let's go to, now let's talk auras. I really like chakras and I like working with the Kundalini, especially in the tantric or the martial art type aspects. Depiction of how to do it. How to become a healer. Chakras. And one of the things I liked about this, I want you to look at that. Look at this. His book, The Satanic Witch. And this was later redone in a second edition. It was updated. And it was forwarded by Blanche Bardon. The way this book described the overall clock variance from dominant to submissive, what kind of personality you have, to you name it, it's there. But three aspects remain. Number one, the outer male. Number two, the inner female. And three, your core, which is male. First time I ever heard that described that way was from the Satanic Witch. But here, in this book, he literally breaks it down into different, how should I say this, different levels or degrees. Different levels or degrees of psychic or mediumship through auras. You've heard the term reading auras. You've heard the term chakras. You've heard the term kundalini. You've heard the definition of being spiral discs of various different colors. But how many people, author-wise, not just practitioners, but author-wise, goes into great detail on how to perform such feats as either healing, different variations of readings. Personally, I've been getting into bone readings myself. As a necromancer, I've been getting into bone readings and I've been looking around for bones. And to be fair, it is something that is very unique, very powerful. But this man, this practitioner, this neo-pagan, he died a few years back. He's written numerous books, and I actually own about three of his books. Witchcraft from the Inside, the complete book of Witchcraft, the big blue book as it's referred to, and this one. I was more interested in Christopher Penziak's works myself. I really related to his works, but when you talk old school practices, old school um, thought forms, Christopher Penziak does not have that, but Raymond Buckland does. And he speaks to you in that old British tone. Okay? That's right, you heard me say it, that old British tone. That almost like sneering but condescending type tone that the British have. It's amusing to me. I love the accent, but at the same time, it's if you actually listen to his audiobooks on YouTube or you're reading the words that he has on each page, you can tell that he is very well educated. He's very much in a superior mindset, so to speak. What most practitioners today would classify as the alpha frame of mind. But at the same time, he's coming at you as though you were a child, literally spelling it out for you. If you're having a problem connecting with spirits, this is why. This is a possibility of why it's not working. At the same time, he's showing you this is the different degrees of how your aura or somebody else's aura is going to look like or work within a degree or a level of degrees. Okay. And it doesn't stop there. He goes into so many else other things, including geomancy, okay, geometrics, and it's amazing to see just how certain authors have a certain understanding, a depth of spirituality when working with spirits. And this is something I've come across recently that it was, I guess you could say, it was more of enlightenment, an enlightening moment for me personally, especially after the last 4 months of what I've been through. Okay. And Alfredo actually knows a little bit about this. So basically, my mother had a heart attack, triple bypass. My relationship ended. My son, the greatest fear that I had came to light, but guess what? It did not come to fruition because of the fact that it was just a fear aspect on my aspect, on my perspective. And so that didn't pan out, even though we did separate. And my son goes back and forth between my house and her house. But here's the other thing: I also lost my job about 3 4 weeks ago, and it was funny because of the fact that it was just like one thing right after another, and I didn't realize it at the time. But this was considered to be a spiritual attack. Okay, it was definitely spiritual warfare. So basically, after taking I started drinking heavily. I started drinking heavily, and I didn't really care. I just started, my income had gone bye-bye, a lot of things. But guess what? I got my income back. My mother's about 98 to 99% healed. You know, they're my son and his mom are in their new place. I got back into spiritualism, started getting back into rituals and rites, working with spirits again, and I ended up getting invited to my old church, and I want to use this as a testimony, kind of just let you know what I mean on a degree of spiritualism. Why spiritualism plays a huge factor in divination. Why we look at spirituality as working with these various gods and goddesses, these demons, these angels, these jinn, the folk saints. Okay, is because of the fact that I had hit such a low point that by the time I got back into my sanctuary, my temple, I was exhausted. I was tired. It felt like I was beat down. Okay. And then it happened. I ran into an old colleague of mine when I first got into the ministry, and I got invited back to his church. And that night that I got there, they started going into devil worship and how they're being attacked spiritually, you know. And it was like I'm sitting there, and it's like, oh fuck, I should have seen this coming. This is what they do when they have a practitioner, and they know it's a practitioner to come into their sanctuary invited. So, anyways, I'm sitting there in the back pew, just minding my own business, you know. And these people kept coming up to me and just tapping me on the shoulder. Hey, good, welcome to seeing the house of the god or whatever, you know. It was really starting to piss me off. You know, it's like just leave me the fuck alone, you know. And I had to work through my own emotions, my own aggression, things that I was going through that I had yet to go through. And I started praying. I started praying, not to their God, to the gods that I work with, to the beings that I work with. And while I was doing this, I was visualizing spiritual symbols, curses, if you will, on the walls, on the floor, on the ceiling. And I was just visually doing it while I was chanting, while I was just praying to them. And next thing I know, the minister and his brother, their moods just suddenly, like somebody just, let's just say it changed, like somebody just flipped that switch, you know, just flipped that switch on the wall. And they just started going into praying. They brought the congregation into it. And I wasn't really trying. I was just praying to the demons that I work with, to the demonic lords, the lords and ladies that I work with, and my patron and patronesses, you know. And I went home that night and I felt better. I felt better. I didn't understand it. What just occurred there? Why then? I've been doing this for 30 plus years. I started when I was 11. I'm now 43. So when I tell you that this came as a surprise to me, I'm not joking. Okay? I'm not joking. So I started thinking about it. I started delving into the books, went back into my temple, started calling on them. And hey, enlighten me. I even reached out to my elders and I said, hey, you know, this just occurred to me. It occurred just last night. What is it? One said, look at look at the oracle. Petition the oracle for insight. Another one said, that sounds like spiritual warfare. And it's like, wow. Because you've heard that when curses and stuff get put on people, what it does is it wears you down. It wears you down. Even if it's a self-made curse, it does the same thing. All curses act the same way in the same route. Takes the path of least resistance, and the more you fight it, the more it takes. But look at it more as tribulations, trials, tests from those that you work with. Especially if you reach out to them and say, "Hey, I need a test. I want to take my ministry to the next level. I want to go that extra mile and take my practices to another level. Can you open the doors and just help me out?" Well, guess what? Number one, they did just that. I reached out to a certain individual for my mother. for myself. And guess what? This book is what came to mind to me. So I started reading down through it. And I started thinking about Christopher Penziak and his third book, The Shamanic Witchcraft, The Temple of Shamanic Witchcraft. He describes the mind, the things that we don't want to deal with, things that are so minor that we push to the back of our minds, what we refer to as the shadow aspect of the mind. It creates a festering wound. This is why I felt so beat down. This is why I felt so tired. It was a self-made curse on my part, and I didn't even notice it. But you've got a lot of churches in this area, so I started using what I know to attack them. Spiritual warfare, because their prayers are trying to contradict yours. So the two things that come to mind is, number one, you need to heal. Number two, you need to have a clear understanding of how mediumship works. There are different levels of mediumship. There is different levels and degrees of practice. And there's a lot of different tools that you as the practitioner can utilize. This book here, I do recommend to you. It came out in 2004. And let me see here. Just want to make sure. Yeah, it was the second edition, 2004. Originally, it came out in 1993. All right. So when you get into any book, I would recommend that you don't take it at face value, because you are accepting the established norms of the individual who wrote the book. Instead, I would recommend that you look at the material, the information, the sources, the references, and delve into them for yourself, because you'll be better off for it. That's why I like Christopher Penziak's works, but I also like Raymond Buckland's. And like I said, I only own 3 of his books. Number one, historically speaking, very few authors, from Christian Day to Lucifer's Raquel, even Raymond Buckland or Patricia and Lionel Fanthorpe, has hit the historical, archaeological, and mythological perspectives of any given deity, um, devil worship, whatever you want to call it. Okay, going back all the way to the Paleolithic era. Okay, my own research from spirituality has worked with runes, from meditation such as tantric or Hinduism. I've gone into branding of the flesh. I've gone in through tattoos, symbolatry. I've looked at, I don't know how many hours of meditation, reflecting through remote viewing, projection, astral projection. And all of this type of stuff is documented within the book of Spirit Communications. You will be surprised, literally, on how far you can go with it if you take notes, practice it, experiment with it, make it your own, so to speak. I always like to go back to the beginning of my practices because it helps me remain humble. This is one of the first books that I picked up on witchcraft after expanding my horizons into spirituality. So I do recommend this to people. All right. With that said, I want to thank Xander for jumping on here with me. I noticed there was two or three others that liked the video earlier. For those of you who are coming on or just come by this channel by accident, welcome. And click and subscribe if you haven't, because we're about to get some heavy duty stuff coming in. All right. Have a good one.